jazz, and get to the main event. So our recording has started. So of course, the standard preamble of anything you say cannot be used against you and all that kind of jazz. But today we're going to be jumping into a Power BI admin in an hour with Alex Powers. But before we do that, I'm just going to go and clear through our sponsor slides here and just talk a little bit about our agenda. So we've already sort of done our meeting open. Have been some people chatting. If you're joining in with one of these things, please feel free to jump in and talk. It's not always us on these things. We're going to do a little welcome and overview here, and then Joseph will do his what's new in Power BI. Alex will start his feature presentation once Joseph's done, probably around 6:20. And then Alex, you got till 7:25 our time, or whatever you need. If you need to go longer, you are welcome to do so. It's totally your call as for the material that you need. So. I just wanted to say a big thanks to the sponsors that make all this stuff happen. Excel Guru and SkillWave.training for hosting this kind of stuff and putting in the time to organize speakers and get all this stuff going here. Both of these companies are really focused on making sure that you got good training to get the most out of this platform. And obviously Microsoft kicks us in and helps us out an awful lot along the way here, including, our speaker works at Microsoft now. So there you go. There's just one small part of all that. Big announcement up for right now as well. I just want to let you guys all know that because we are the Power BI and Modern Excel user group, we have decided that we are now going to dual track what we actually have going on in this meetup. So we're going to be running 2 meetups per month. This is a big brand new thing for us. We're going to be starting November 5th. We've got our first dedicated Excel topic. Celia Albus is going to be joining us. Although this dedicated Excel topic does somewhat tie to Power BI as well. It's going to be a Power Query custom data types within Excel, which is going to be pretty awesome. And then on our next regularly scheduled Power BI meetup, I'm going to be doing a session which actually crosses the boundaries of both of these things. We're going to be talking about merging magic in Power Query. I'm going to be focusing specifically on talking about techniques that either replicate what a merge does or uses a merge inside Power Query. And this is kind of going to be our sort of structure that we're going to go for. Our first meetup of the month, we'll do an Excel focus session. May not have anything to do with Power BI at all. The second meetup of the month, we're going to do a Power BI focus session, which may cross across with Excel as well. So you can watch out for those. The announcement's going out now. So it's a big exciting thing. I'm really looking forward to what we have going on. We got speakers lined up to December already, and we're already starting to book into January. So this is a pretty darn cool thing. If you're interested in connecting with Pass, Pass helps us out with social media presence and a few other things here as well. You can find them at all of these different locations. You should also know that their virtual summit is coming up. This is the biggest Pass event of the year, and I know that they would love to have you attend this as well. So there is a group code to get into that as well that you should take advantage of if you're going to join into it as well. The last thing that I want to mention is that we love new speakers in this setup here as well. If you are interested in speaking at the VanPug group, there is a nice little survey that we actually have that's set up here. You can go directly to this URL and you can fill all that stuff out with who you are, tell us about why you're awesome, what session you've got. Submit that to us, and then hopefully we can get you scheduled to talk, or at least give you a chat about what you'd like to do and whatnot. As I say, we love new speakers. We want to hear about any topics that you have, so please check that out and fill it out, and let's see if we can get you on the stage here as well. So I just want to throw out a nice little acknowledgement to my friend Wynn Hopkins, who has joined us all the way from the west coast of Australia. He's telling me that I am showing off by putting up 2 meetups per month. Yeah, you're damn right, man. And I hope that at some point I can actually have you participate or even speak at one of them. When that would be fantastic. So at this point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off the stage here. I'm going to throw it over to Joseph, and Joseph is going to give us the what's new in Power BI from the build that didn't drop last month around. So Joseph, the screen is yours to take over anytime you like.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. I'm just going to get my screen up and then we can get going. Perfect. There we go. So yeah, like Ken sort of alluded to there. It is the October meetup, obviously. Last month in September, didn't have a release to talk about to highlight what's new, is I think we missed the drop in by just a few days. So I've sort of been sitting on what's new in Power BI for the September release for a few weeks now. Just before I jump into Power BI and go over some of the cool new functionality, particularly some of the new AI functionality that I absolutely love and have been having fun playing around with. Just going to do a quick introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joseph Yeates. I do the What's New in Power BI at the beginning of these meetup groups every month. Every month is a release, so that's really nice. I presented a few different times now over the last couple of years at the Vancouver Power BI user group and throughout the Pacific Northwest, usually about Power BI and integrating R and the power of more advanced analytics into Power BI reports. My website and my blog is at feathersanalytics.com. And I write about all things Power BI, Excel, SQL Server, R, but really my passion is making more advanced techniques with some statistical analysis more accessible to business users and organizations at large. I also have my social media handles up there as well. I'm at Feathers Analytics on Twitter, and my LinkedIn is up there too. I'm always keen and happy to connect and talk data stuff and anything geeky really with anyone who wants to. So please feel free to connect in either of those two places there. And with that, well, without further ado, I guess, let's jump into Power BI, let's do it and get into some of the cool new features for this month. So I'm going to highlight 3 new features from the September release, and the first of which was an enhancement to the Q&A visual and experience. So this is an AI visual. To look at this, I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm just going to hit Q&A right here. So this is a functionality that I've covered at a few different months. They're constantly releasing updates to this feature. But one thing that I really like now is that you can actually do arithmetic within this natural language query. So previously, you'd probably do stuff like, what is the largest balance? Let's say, what is the largest balance? And just with natural language, we come up with an answer. Oh, okay, we're at 507 million. Cool, and I can either add that as a visual to my report, or I can go and ask another question. But what I really like now is we can actually start doing a little bit more complex things. I can start doing math. So if I wanted to do like our current balance less our current deposits. So now I've actually been able to subtract our current deposits from our current balance, and we have the answer. It's right up there in the card visual, 3.84 billion. I can go a little bit further than that as well. I can say minus current investments, and it keeps on doing this. So I think that's really, really cool. And now we can see we don't have to create a distinct measure for all of these things. You don't have to be coding in DAX. Just with natural language, we can build on what we have available to us in our data model, the fields we have available in our report, and we can start really answering more complex questions that our users may have. By the same token, if I wanted to say, what's our current investable assets, which is deposits plus investments, same thing really quickly. It's our current deposits plus our current investments. Bank 3.26 billion, and we're all good. And I'm going to say, yeah, current investments. There we go. So that was the first update that I wanted to cover. The second one is probably the biggest one, and I know there's been a lot of blog posts about, a lot of talk about, is smart narratives. So this is a brand new AI visual available as a preview feature in the Power BI desktop. So to enable that, you might have to go to File, Options and Settings, and go to Options. And then towards the bottom of the list here, we have preview features. And just have to make sure smart narrative visual have to have that toggled on. If you're not seeing that on your report, make sure that box is checked on, and you may need to restart the application, and then you can start playing around with it. There's 2 places that we can add this visual to our report. We can do the same thing how I used or the same area, the insert tab on the ribbon where I added the Q&A visual, you can add the smart narrative visual as well. Or if you go to the visualizations pane on the right-hand side here, it has its own little icon, smart narrative. And so if I just go ahead and click that, without me doing anything, automatically it does a little write-up and a summary of all of the visuals and all of the insights in the visuals that are currently in my report. So if I start in the top left-hand corner here, I have a balance by date, so we can just see over time, how is my balance trending? In the top right-hand corner, we have a count of clients by their age group, so we can see how that's trending over time as well. And then down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we can see our balance. We can see our balance drilled down a little bit into the product types of the accounts that hold those balances. So borrowing, deposits, investments, insurance, and credit card have small amounts. And so looking at each of these three visuals, the smart narratives visual has just quickly summarized some points that it thinks it might be interesting for the report user. So if I go through them one by one, we can see the 19 to 24 client age group experienced the longest period of growth in number of clients between December 31st and July 31st of 2020. Okay, cool, that's pretty interesting. If I go down here, current balance trended up, resulting in 11.73% increase. So all of these things are, I know as an analyst, I would have to go through, look at the visual, maybe look at the underlying data underneath the visual. And if I'm typing out a report or I'm trying to put a presentation together for various stakeholders in the organization, I would have to pulling out all of these sentences, all of these insights manually. But instead, just with a click of a button, all of these things have come up. And I have the ability to, if I don't like this current balance decreased, I don't want that, I can just go ahead and delete it. And I have the ability to go in and edit and add and enhance this narrative as well. This is really just a starting point that allows us to get going, not having to start from scratch. And it takes us probably 75%, 90% of the way there to writing up a report based on our visual. I'm going to delete this for now. If I go remove. Because another way that we can introduce this into our report is by clicking the smart narrative visual or going to the ribbon and clicking the smart narrative icon. It writes up a report for the entire dashboard, so the entire page of the report. But if I only cared about doing a bit of a write-up for this visual in the top left-hand corner, I can just right-click and hit summarize. And then the exact same thing happens. It just summarizes this visual as opposed to all the visuals in the report. So I can have the exact same functionality. If I don't care about the current balance decreasing, I can just go ahead and delete that. And what I'm also able to do is add some of my own insights as well. Like I said, this is just a starting point, but we can go in and add some of our own as well. So I can say, the maximum balance for this time period is, and then I can go and hit this add value here. This pops out from the visual on the right hand side. I'm going to add value. It's going to say, what do you want to name your value? It's the maximum balance because that's where I want to insert it. What is my maximum balance for this time period? And if I want to ask a question about this data, I can do this one of two ways. I can either say maximum or max even current balance if I know all of the fields in our model, and we can see, okay, we're at 6 billion. Or this is a Q&A visual driving it. We can just use natural language. If I just want to do large balance and I get the same, or I don't get the same answer. That's interesting. Let me try large current balance. And then I get the same answer as before. So I'm just going to go back and do max current balance. So lots of different ways we can interact for this, 6 billion. And then I can decide how I want to format this as well. So right now this is just general, but yeah, let's say I want to go to 0 decimal places. Do I want it to be a percent or currency? Yeah, I want it to be currency. and I'm going to hit save. And right now, this goes right into the report. The maximum balance for this time period is 6 billion. And I think that is really, really cool that we have a great starting place that we can build some more complex logic into as well. With this write-up, it also is cross-filtered, just like any other. So if I wanted to click, just look at deposits, all of the information in this smart narrative updates as well. If I just want to look at investments, same thing. So for investments, our current balance trended up, resulting in a 29.6.7% increase. If we go to deposits, that's down to 10.94. So everything I enter in here is dynamic. It refreshes. We have the ability to customize. I think this is one of the coolest features that's come into Power BI in the last 2 years, probably. And I know that for me, who uses Power BI a lot as a dashboarding tool, but then I also have to go and write reports using a lot of these visuals as well. This is making my life so easy. And like I say, this feature gets me probably 80% of the way there, that I may have to tweak a few things, but just out of the box, it's absolutely fantastic. For the last feature that I'm going to cover, just before we jump into the feature presentation, I'm just going to edit this visual. So right now, this is looking at our balance by account product. I'm going to take out account product, and I'm going to put date in as well. There we go. And you know what? I don't care about every date. I really just want to do a relative date filter. And I just want everything that's in this year. I'm going to apply my filter. Perfect. And let's drill down even to the day. So I know building visual reports, building dashboards, and in Power BI, this is one of the frustrating things you run into is, okay, we want to look at time series, or we want to look at some sort of stacked column chart just like this. And there's lots of categories on the bottom here. So I think we're at 3, 6, 9, we're at 10, I guess 10 months this year. So we're at 10 columns in the visual. And right now we're looking at our current balance, and each of these columns is broken down into the account products. And so I have the overflow labels on, so we can see how much each of these individual products has. But what I really care about is the total. I really just want the label for the total. And if we want to get into the detail of breaking down by product, sure, we can do that. And what's been really frustrating for the last number of years is this has been really difficult to do. There are some workarounds with some DAX measures that we can absolutely do. We can stack some visuals on top of each other, or even use the combo chart, and with some formatting, we can kind of make it work. But all I really care about is having a total at the top. This is now built-in functionality. I can just turn these data labels off, and with total labels, I can turn that on, and I have all the same formatting options that I do for the regular data labels. So if I want to look at it in millions, we can look at it that way. I can change the font color if I want to go with a nice purple instead. And it's funny, after showing the cool AI feature where it writes all your reports for you, and then I demo this, but honestly, this is so happy. This was such a pain point for me before building visuals, and now we finally have the totals label, that we don't have to worry about doing all sorts of weirdness with DAX. We can just jump straight into this here. So those are the 3 features that I wanted to cover today. We looked at enhancements to the Q&A visual in Power BI. We can do arithmetic now within the natural language querying, which is awesome. We reviewed a bit of an introduction to the smart narratives visual. And actually, if I just open up into the monthly blog that covers all of the new features, sorry, if we go to the top of the page, if I go to smart narratives, there's a little bit of a write-up here about some of the things that I covered, how we can edit it, how we can customize that write-up. There actually is its own dedicated blog post as well. This is a preview feature, but it is on the roadmap to be generally available as well. So this blog post goes into a little bit more detail. And if we go, there's actually the forum as well. That it is in preview, so we have been invited to share our thoughts with the new Smart Narratives visual, and lots of feedback already. So if you start playing around with this and have anything that feedback, bugs, or suggestions, there's a great forum that we can do this here as well. Yeah, just looking at some of the comments in the chat, it is the simple things in life, Alex. I absolutely agree. Some of these little pain points, it's nice to have those balance of features every month where we have, some of those pain points are eased, as well as the cutting edge AI visuals that may in fact put us out of a job in the long run. So with that, that's everything I had for today. So I'm happy to pass it back over to Ken and Alex for our feature presentation for this evening. So thank you everyone for your time.
Cool. Thanks, Joseph. And Alex, I'll let you take over the screen and do your presentation. Guys, I got to tell you, as much as there's fear and worry over this, I'm not worried that I'm going to lose a job out of this, because I think that there's going to be a lot of people that do what they do with Excel, where they just bash in a formula, get an answer, and accept it as gospel, and don't actually look at it to see whether or not it truly is right. And that's where our value comes. Is we shouldn't be necessarily building all the stuff, but we should be interpreting it to make sure that it actually is correct, right? So different piece there, but yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So Alex, for your presentation today, how would you like to handle Q&A? Do you want to just watch your Q&A chat? Would you like me to interrupt and let you know? What is your preference?
Can interrupt me at any point in time. If our attendees want to come off mute, interrupt me at any point in time. I'm very conversational, so I don't want to leave anyone behind either. So at any point in time, if you're like, hold on, can we drill into that? Let us know in the chat. Ken can bring it up. If it's something immediate and you want to come off mute, feel free to do so as well. For tonight, though, I dropped in just a follow-along link. So this is a hands-on keyboard. I know this stuff. I want to share this knowledge with everyone here. So just out on the GitHub, let me make sure I'm on the right monitor. There we go. So out on the GitHub, Microsoft PBI workshops, I've just taken over this repository. The way that I'm kind of positioning it is I see the cliff that happens the day after you leave Dashboard in a day, and there's just all of this knowledge that we didn't teach you, we didn't give you. So what is like the next steps? So I'm building all this content out. Tab Editor in an hour, I've been championing that. DAX Studio in an hour and building that out. ALM Toolkit for application lifecycle management. And then tonight, we're going to be diving into just admin in an hour. So you're like, well, I need to be the Power BI admin, so this session probably isn't for me. Not true. Anyone here can use the PowerShell commandlets. So with this, what I want you to do is just navigate out to this page. We're going to click on admin in an hour. And then we'll see here just kind of an initial README. To begin, we're going to go ahead and just press this Launch Binder button. You can hold Control and press click, or you can just click it outright. So I'm going to go back, just open it up in a new window. So I'd like you to go ahead and just press the Launch Binder. And this is going to go ahead and spin up just a virtual kernel here with Jupyter notebooks. And we're going to have PowerShell installed in the background. We're going to work through just an entire notebook here together tonight. Is Jupyter Notebook for Python? You can do Python in it, but you can also do PowerShell. So that's one of the recent kind of additions here, at least on the Microsoft side. So as you're watching the binder, it might show kind of building out the logs. So it's building this virtual kind of kernel here for us. And then it's going to load in our Jupyter Notebook, just with all of our Markdown, and then obviously some of our PowerShell kind of modules as well. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to keep stalling, just letting that kind of build in the background and introduce myself. Cool. So for those who don't know me, my name is Alex Powers, Senior Intelligence Technical Specialist here at Microsoft, located in the St. Louis, Missouri area. So I know I saw a couple people here in the Midwest, so thank you for just hanging out on a very late night here in the Midwest. But I absolutely love being able to dial in, anywhere around the world right now, especially with COVID. Just we're all going through a lot, so just being able to hang out with the community is awesome. Professional background, I'm just a Microsoft guy, top to bottom here, and I did start out in Excel. So just I'm an index match kind of guy. I'm sorry for the V lookups. I haven't gotten to the X lookups yet. I've heard they're fun, but I don't know. I'm stuck in my ways. But I love the way that technology brought me into Power BI, business intelligence, and then kind of data management and analytics. So just all of these doors, all of these opportunities that have been just kind of opened for me, just starting with Excel. Obviously, one of the more things that I'm proud of here, just being a co-organizer with the St. Louis Power BI user group. We've been running for about 3 years. I can tell you the first meeting was probably 7 people and 4 of us were the organizers. So it just, you got to bring people together with kind of that common knowledge, and then just over time it continues to grow. So I loved hearing Ken talking about, hey, this is actually grown pretty big. We need to start doing 2 sessions. But I'm not just Microsoft robot all of the time. Just I do have personal interest here outside of work. So my cats, professional wrestling, and data, just those are the 3 interests that really kind of make my heart beat. I'll admittedly tell you I spend way too much time over on Reddit. So you always see me over in the Power BI subreddit or the Excel Reddit, just helping out. If people have questions, maybe they're having a little bit of fun. So if you're a community member over there, hopefully we can kind of connect. And then I'll be honest with you, just before Data Monkey, I was just writing lots of VBA. After Data Monkey, though, no VBA. I'm sorry. I remember the day specifically, Ken. I was at my desk and I was frustrated with Power Query. And I was like, I'm just going to run to VBA. And then I said, what would Ken think? And I finally made it through to my first Power Query solution. I haven't looked back since.
Didn't you tweet me at that time? I think you did, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you did. I'm pretty sure I said, look in that chapter there. And then after that, it was like, hallelujah, I think it's something along those lines anyway.
That's how it starts. It's just, you take on a problem, you take on a challenge that maybe you haven't experienced before. And next thing you know, like, all right, I've got this. You just keep building on that momentum and moments, which is something we're going to do here tonight. Cool. So we've ended up just in our virtual lab here, and now I'll go out to the chat. I just want to move along. So for those who are following along, let me know. Just give me a thumbs up that I went ahead and just built this virtual environment for you. So I'll pause there for a moment, just get some feedback.
I can tell you from my side that it did come through. See a couple of thumbs up coming in.
Cool, love it. Excellent. So tonight it was all about the dealer's choice. So I just appreciate Ken saying, hey, I'll give you the stage. I said, well, what would you like me to talk about? He's like, I don't know. Let's do PowerShell. I was like, all right, well, I've not done a session around that. So how would I approach that? So I was like, I need to build a virtual environment, especially for the people who have never maybe done PowerShell. Just with this way, we can walk top to bottom together. So with this on the left-hand side, we're going to jump into a Jupyter notebook. So if you double click that, we'll have all of our table of contents here, just all of the markdown available. And then I'll speak to just what is the Jupyter notebook. Back here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So the Jupyter notebooks are an open source web application that allow you to create and share documents that contain live code, maybe equations, visualizations, and narrative text. I know that they did have Power BI visuals being able to be rendered on a Jupyter notebook. That was on the roadmap. I'll have to take a look and see. I think we may have slipped on the date. But could you imagine being able to write your code live, pushing that into a Power BI visual just here on a Jupyter notebook? So data exploration, data analysis, just right there, kind of at the time which you're building your solutions. So you'll typically see this. I think some people would call it out just with Python, maybe R. But once again, you can do it here in PowerShell. So if you're doing debugging, this is just an awesome method. And then you can do it locally, like we're going to do here, kind of within the web browser. So you can pull up a notebook on your local machine, or you could have it hosted in a cloud. So if you wanted to run a notebook just through a process, you're more than fine to do so. Whew. All right, so that's Jupyter Notebooks. Jumping back into tonight, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Table of contents, just how do we navigate around a Jupyter notebook? We're going to get into just the very basic hello world. So that's going to get us started here with writing PowerShell commands. Getting into more of the PowerShell for Power BI, connecting to the service, actual artifacts of Power BI, and we want to start thinking about, well, what are all the items that I can connect to? And then dig a little bit deeper into the REST API, and then just where do you go after tonight? So continuing your journey. We're going to scroll down here to Jupyter Notebook navigation. To move up or down the notebook, you can use just your directional keys. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see the blue. I'm currently on this markdown. If I press up, I move up. If I press down, move down. So it kind of feels like a video game now. Keyboard combination allows me to run a cell or I can enter or exit markdown kind of mode. So if I double click this cell now, I can see the markdown of this cell. If I want to go ahead and exit this, I can either press the run button up here at the very top or the control plus enter. So personally, I'm going to use control enter a lot tonight, just as we kind of start moving into cells and just writing content. But if you ever get stuck, if you ever double click, just remember you can kind of get out of it running or press the control enter. So I'm going to go in here, press control enter, boom, we're done. PowerShell introduction. So if you've never done PowerShell before, let me know in the comments tonight. We're just taking on every Power product that we have, Power BI, PowerPoint, PowerShell, bring all the power. But let me know if you've not done it tonight, if you've never done it before. This is going to be an awesome kind of introduction within the context of the things that you know. So in our first cell, we're going to go and start out by writing to host. So to our host session, we're going to do a write dash host. So I can see a little bit of syntax highlighting here, kind of with the green. Just double quotes, hello, comma, world. I can run this cell by pressing the run selected cells, kind of the play button, or I can press that control enter for into the hotkey. So I'm going to do the hotkey control enter. I see here it's running. I'll give it a moment here. Cool. So it now returned hello world. All right. So that's our first introduction. We wrote something here to the host. It returned it back for us. Let's move on. Let's maybe add some parameters now just to this statement. So we're going to do a write dash host. Do hello world again. We're feeling pretty confident with that. Then we're going to add a parameter here. We're going to say our background color for our write host. Background color is going to be dark yellow. And then our foreground color up here, we're going to go and use white. So we're just going to use some Power BI branding now. So foreground color, and it's not case sensitive. If you want to scream at it with all uppercase, feel free. If you want to do it in lowercase, that's fine as well. So dark yellow, foreground color is white. We're going to press the run button or control enter for the hotkey fans. I see it returns hello world, just in yellow background, and then kind of with that white foreground. A little difficult to read, but it's there. I need you to trust me. There we go. And in our third, just, I've talked about these parameters. Now I'm talking about write host. I feel like I'm throwing you the deep end. So maybe let's get a little bit of help. So here in our third cell, we're going to actually use our get dash help. Yeah, what actually is the host? So in this example, it's the .NET kernel. So this is going to be our host. So it's running in .NET in terms of the application, then PowerShell is the underlying language. Cool. So get help, and then we're going to ask for help. Just what is this write dash host that we keep writing? Control enter is that hotkey. Cool. So we're now getting back some documentation. So the name here is write dash host, some of the syntax, obviously the different arguments that we can pass through. Some of these I'm just not familiar with. I can see, all right, foreground color. I remember we typed that one. Some of our options, black, dark blue. So I have kind of the VB6 colors here. Background color once again as well. So two different kind of parameters here that we can pass through with write host. And it looks like some of these are optional as well. So if we didn't write it, it returned. If we did supply it, it returned. These are just all optional. Cool. So hello world. Let's move on maybe to our next objective then, because I'm familiar with, writing things. What about actually storing things? So like variables. So let's go ahead and store a variable, and then we'll just insert it into another kind of an existing string. So in our first cell here below, we're going to use just the money sign here. And we can call it anything we want. We can call it my cats. We can call it my dogs if you're a dog person. But we're just going to go ahead and call it my color. And then I want you to type in just your favorite color. I'll go ahead and scroll in here a little bit for us. My favorite color, double quotes here for strings. I'm going to do red. And then we can go ahead and press the play or control enter. I thought I pressed it. Control enter. All right, well, I guess I see this little asterisk. It kind of is there and then it goes away. I'm going to keep running it, keep running it. All right, so we're storing the variable, but we're not actually returning it. So if we were to go down to maybe like the next, right as host, my color. All right, so it is there. We're just not seeing it. Well, then let's add this to a sentence then. So in our second example here, we're going to do a right dash host or double quotes. I'm going to say my favorite color is just colons, and then I'm going to do a money sign. I'm going to surround this here with the open parenthesis, and I'm going to do another money sign here just so I can reference my variable, my color. So in this way, if I have a string, if I want to insert just another string value into my string, we just need to kind of have this combination right here. So with this, if we press Control Enter, or we press the play button, my favorite color is red. Let's check the third cell then. I wonder if we can do other things such as maybe like length, how many items are stored within my variable. So let's try this then. So my color, if I remember the variable, I'm going to press period and I do length. Control Enter, hotkey. I'm going to keep just saying that over and over. Press the run button. 3. So my color dot length, 3 characters. 1, 2, 3. All right. So I'm just taking the things I know variables, I know writing strings. What are some of the other things I may know? How do I loop maybe within PowerShell?
Hey, Alex, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the language that this is actually doing the program or the coding in here, this is actually PowerShell, or this is okay?
Yeah, this is all PowerShell.
So it's not case sensitive. I'm playing around. I'm not capitalizing anything, or actually I'm capitalizing all over the place differently, and it seems to be working.
You got it. So if we wanted to yell at the machine, completely fine. So
Beautiful.
So we do have that flexibility. It's not like Power Query where we get our hands slapped if we miss a case somewhere. Yeah. So all PowerShell, and we're going to kind of jump over at some point here, and I'm going to show the IDE as well. So this is just if you have a machine, especially when you're thinking about just corporate, if they will or won't allow you to install the modules, we'll kind of get to that. But for right now, we're just going to keep building that knowledge base and just general PowerShell. So objectives now, we're going to go ahead and create a list. We're going to start iterating through this list. So I know I can create a variable here with my money, kind of my $sign, my money sign. I'm going to do numbers equals. I'm just going to use an @ symbol here, so then this way I could store just a list. So I'm going to say list 1, 2, and 3. If I press Control Enter, so a question here. So for some reason I don't see my results when I press play. That's a great observation. Let me show it in this example. So we have money numbers. We're storing a variable. We have a list that we're going to store it in. If I press Control Enter, or if I press the run button, nothing happens. It's because I didn't tell it to do anything, like writing it back to the host. I just said, store this for me. But if I was maybe to go into this line here and, add a little bit more, and I said, well, go ahead and write me back numbers. Numbers 1, 2, 3. It can then return. So if we're not asking it to return anything, you probably won't see any results. Oh, yes. I love that. Kathy's already got some thoughts here. All right, so let me go ahead and jump back over here then. So we're storing our numbers, we're storing this list, and now we want to start iterating through this. So we have a for each, just kind of a construct here now. Open parenthesis. You can call this anything. I can say dog. I can say cat. It's not sensitive in what you call it. For my example, I'm going to call it item. For each item in numbers, just do the curly brace here. Yeah. And I'm going to do item times 10. And really, if I was to, tabs over spaces this, here's how I'd probably format it. But you can put it on a single line, you can put it on multiple, just here with your for each. Now, if we do a control enter, if we press run, so for each. So for each item in numbers, take that item and then multiply it by 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. Yep, that's right. 2 times 10, 20. 3 times 10, 30. All right, all right. Whew. Yes. Cool. So we have looping now. Interesting. I'm just thinking more about this PowerShell though. My mind is kind of racing. Write-host, get-help. There's a pattern here that we could probably start breaking this down into. It's this verb-noun. So write-host, get-help. So whenever you're approaching PowerShell now, it's what is the verb and then what is the noun. So when you just sit on that moment, then what is the verb? What is the noun? If that's the only thing you take away from tonight, you'll be kind of you'll be golden pony boy. So with this, let's talk about PowerShell for Power BI. So this is just a virtual kernel. We're playing around in it tonight. Whenever we close this browser and we're done with it, it's destroyed. All of this installation of these modules are gone. So you're probably saying, well, Alex, how can I start doing this development just on my local machine? So down here in your search, if you want to type in PowerShell, and then we're going to look for the Windows PowerShell ISE. And this is going to be one of those important points here. Well, let me zoom back out. All right, so Windows PowerShell ISE, I'm going to run this as an administrator of my machine. So this is where I was saying, if you're in a corporate environment where unfortunately they may not allow you to get some of these things installed on your machine, that could just be kind of one of those factors right now. But I'm going to go ahead and install this here on my local machine here. It's my work machine, run as administrator. You may see a prompt that says, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? I'm going to press yes. I trust Microsoft Windows, the publisher. And we're now going to get an integrated solution environment. Cool. I'm going to snap this to the right. Thank you, Win. Yep. Yep, that's the one. So I'll pull that back up for anyone that may want to do this now. So one is kind of PowerShell core, and then the other one's just kind of Windows. So it's much further over my head, Win. But for tonight, we're just going to do the PowerShell ISE. There's just tons of different versions of PowerShell here. Right-hand side, I have my development environment. If I was to do the write-host, look at that. We have IntelliSense. So some of these great things. If I was to do a dash, I can see the foreground, background colors. So just a nice benefit here. If after tonight you're like, all right, this is pretty cool. I really want to start doing more of this, and maybe just kind of outside of the Jupyter Notebook. So I'm going to scroll this back a little bit. And then we're going to start installing some of these Power BI modules. So here at the very beginning, it's our verb, and then it's our noun. So let's do an install as my verb, dash module. And I'm going to install the Microsoft Power BI MGMT. not case sensitive, so just install the Microsoft Power BI management module. Right-hand side here, if you want to do it in your own ISE, just for tonight, you're like, all right, I'm just going to do it here. Install, have the IntelliSense module, Microsoft Power BI MGMT. Press enter. It's going to run the script. Press play or press Control Enter here on the left. It's going to start installing this here just within our kernel. And then if it asks here, just an untrusted repository, you can go and press yes to all. Here in this example, just go ahead and press go ahead and press what does it want me to do? I'm gonna have to force this. Give me one moment here. Of course, the live demo. Yeah. So if you could for me, just type in -force at the very end. Oh gosh. Oh, Max. So I'll get this updated here just in the markdown for the example. We'll do force. -force. And we'll give this a moment here. I can see it kind of installing on the left-hand side. Downloading the package. Continue to get this installed, so I'm just reinstalling it here on my local machine. Then we'll do the other one here as well, the data gateway, since I know we had a couple data gateway fans here in the audience tonight. So we'll get this prepared, just install -module data gateway, and then we'll just force this here. Cool. So in this example, I see that it's been completed. Wait for our host to complete. Awesome. Cool. So that side looks good. I'm going to go ahead and run it on this side as well. Just Control Enter. We'll kind of get both of these going. And then we'll see here just if we can start getting help. Who doesn't love the gateway? I'm just not a fan. It's too many variables. And let me know if it completes on your side. I'm going to go ahead and kind of get zoomed back out over here. So if you type in that command or this one. Is that what it's telling you? That it's just requiring administrator rights to kind of run that? Oh. So we'll give kind of Baba a moment here. If you're on that machine and it goes through, it should prompt you. It's not data gateway exclusive of PowerShell core. Nope. You can do data gateway just kind of here through the standard. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. Just do a restart of the kernel. Hopefully this is a little bit better. If not, then I apologize. What was the fun part here? Next one down. honestly, it could just be running in the background, just extremely slow. Let me know if anyone was able to get it installed kind of within the... Just a bit slow. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Oh, awesome. Well, if they're going through, then that's great. We'll try then on the next section here. Let's type in get-help, and then we're going to do some stars here just for wildcard searching. And we're going to see if we can find any Power BI modules. And I'll do it over here on the right-hand side as well. Get-help. We'll search for Power BI. Press enter. You can see a lot of the modules here that are available, or command lists that are available within that Power BI module. One thing I'm noticing here, get, switch, add, set, get, add, remove. It's not very consistent. It's just very difficult for me to figure out what am I trying to do. So let's maybe update this here now. And we're going to do the get-help. So go ahead and zoom in here again. So we're going to do get-help. Our wildcard search, where we're looking for Power BI terms again. And I'm going to go ahead and pipe it now. So I'm going to say take the instructions from the left-hand side, and then go ahead and apply those here to the next step. So to do so, I'm going to use the pipe character. And I'm going to say, let's go ahead and sort by name. So I'm going to go ahead and sort it by my name column up here. So now if I press enter, much better. Close this out here. So I can see here now, add Power BI dataset, add Power BI encryption key, add Power BI rows. So I'm seeing all these, the verb dash noun. I'm seeing all these add activities, connecting to the Power BI service, maybe disconnecting, exporting, get content. So Power BI access token, activity events, capacities, dashboards, data flows, data sets. I can get all of this metadata out of the service now. And obviously, in some examples, you can export the entire Power BI data flow or the Power BI report just programmatically. I can't read the full name here, though. So let's try something else. Let's do another pipe. So here within my system, I can press up just on the kind of within that command. It'll take me back to the last items I typed. So if I press up or down, kind of scrolling me through. I'm going to pipe it one more time here now. And I'm going to go ahead and say format. I have my IntelliSense. I'm going to go ahead and format this table that has been returned. I'm going to press dash. And then I can see here this auto size parameter. So I want those columns widths just be auto sized, and that way I can read all their contents. Kind of like in this example, I just can't figure out what this last three dots are. So get-help, Power BI. We're going to sort by the name column. Then we're going to go ahead and format our table just to be auto-sized. Press enter. Much better. See all the commandlets. I can see all the terms. Nothing's hidden from me here on the left-hand side. Obviously, with the bigger screen, I'd be able to read some of the rights as well. Cool. So I'm going to press restart here one more time. And I'm going to see if this got installed. Man, I have luck here. If you're able to move forward with this, let me know, at least on the left-hand side. Otherwise, we'll just do everything kind of exclusively here on the right. Yep, Control Enter is just for the notebook. You don't have to do that in the kind of within the PowerShell. Great question, Raymond. Oh, of course, now it's installing. Good. All right, well, then we'll give it a moment. I was like, all the best stuff is in the notebook. And then we'll do this one as well. Maybe it was just we were all beaten up on it at the same time here.
I was just going to suggest that was a chance. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done this. I had a class where I actually had 30 people try and pull from a SQL server all at once, and the server shut down. It wasn't having any of it. And I was wondering if Jupyter was the same.
Alex, you're on mute.
Somebody must have muted me. I apologize. Yeah, just the My Binder. It's a free resource, so everything that comes along with using kind of free utilities. But yeah, that's where I've done all this notebook in the past. I was like, I don't know why it's not running the install. So get-help, Power BI. We can see it now here on the left-hand side. If we want to expand out these cells, so let me go ahead and bring these back. Cool. And then we'll let the next one kind of the data gateway. Awesome. So hopefully now you can just see all of the different commandlets that you have access to here within Power BI and kind of the PowerShell commandlets. Our next objective, though, is we actually want to connect out to our Power BI service. So I saw that here in the list, my connect and my disconnect. So let's go ahead and run that now. So let's do connect dash Power BI service account. If we press enter, we'll just get our pop-up here asking us to authenticate. Go ahead and just choose another account here. And then once you get logged in with your profile, you'll just see those details being returned. So yes, I logged in. Here's my tenant, and then here's my username that I just authenticated in with. I'll check up here. That one might just still be having issues. Oh gosh. All right. So on the right-hand side here, I'll continue. Return a list of our Power BI workspaces. So if I'm thinking about all the different activities that I have access to, I want to go ahead and return just at least 5 workspaces, just so I can kind of get a sense of what's going on and what the return may be like here. So let's type in get-Power BI. We're going to type in workspace. We're going to ask for the first, so just the first items that are returned. I'm just asked for 5 of them. If I press enter, you get this key value return. So I can see here that I've got my first workspace, just the ID of it. So here's my unique GUID. Here's the title of it. Is it a read-only? Is it maybe orphaned? You know, has it been abandoned? No one's ever used. No one's using it now. Is it on a dedicated capacity? So you have those flags as well. So true or false. And then obviously here, what is the capacity ID? So these are some of the attributes that are just being returned at your workspace level. But let's talk about just scope now. Because I remember we logged in, you know, get-Power BI workspace. I said you don't have to be the tenant admin to use these. So if you're running these, you're like, well, I don't know how I'm getting access to all this. It's because it's running within your individual scope. So right here, scope individual returns only workspaces assigned to that caller in our example. And this is your default value. We didn't tell it what to do, what not to do. It's just the default. If you are the tenant admin, you're in attendance tonight, you can see all of the content of your tenant, but you'll have to define that as the scope of organization. So let's just go ahead and create this as a variable, so in this way we don't have to do it over and over and over again. I'll just say my scope level here, and I'll store it just organization. I'll check with my kernels. Just hit restart again. See if we can get it. Restarting. All right, so I'm going to create over here on the left, scope level equals organization. Cool. And now if I want to return all of the workspaces over the entire tenant, obviously I can go ahead and do so. So I'm going to do get-Power BI workspace. The scope here now I'm going to go ahead and say just use my variable scope level. So in this way, if I have to keep doing this over and over again, I won't have to define it. And I'm going to say instead of going after the first or maybe like skipping, the first 50, I just want you to go ahead and grab all of them. And then we're going to go ahead and pipe that return. And I'm going to say, let's go ahead and measure just that object. So I'm returning an object. I'm going to go ahead and start measuring it now. Press enter. $4,228 workspaces here within my tenant. Yeah, so part of it asks, is this the only value for scope? So the only two values are going to be individual or organization. So just drop the AL. So those are the only two values that are possible. And like I said, individuals default. So you're more than fine. And this is why I kind of enjoy this session tonight, is because if you want to learn PowerShell kind of within the context of the things you have access to, you're more than fine to do so. You have that right here as the individual. And then as the tenant admin, you can scan across every workspace just because you have that capability. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start maybe storing this now just into a variable. So I'm going to do PBI workspaces, create that variable now. I'm going to say go ahead and get dash Power BI workspace. Let me pull this up. And we're going to get this at the scope. I'm just going to point to my previous variable. Like I said, I just don't want to keep typing it over and over again, but you can press up or down here if you just want to use the autocomplete, and it'll make sense later. Press enter.
Hey, Alex, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I'm not tenant admin and if I give a scope as a organizational, it will still accept it and will show my individual workspaces, or it will give me an error?
Yeah, it'll give you an error that you don't have access.
Okay, so organizational is pretty much synonymous to admin then, I guess?
Yeah.
If you are, yeah, okay, sounds good, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Great question. So we're going to store just all workspaces within that variable here. So just the last dash all. And I'll check. I mean, it seems like I've got things. I'm going to check one more time. All right, that's working. If this works. Hold on. This thing is just pain on the authentication. There we go. All right, we're back to the notebook. So I'm going to just copy these, paste this here, define my scope. That's the error right there. Running it, saving it in my variable, and then we're going to go ahead and return just kind of these. If we remember the property here, count. I'm just going to say Power BI workspaces period count. So just very similar to when we did the length at the very beginning. Press Control Enter or press play. 4,028. It's bringing back that count property. So once again, if I was typing PBI workspaces period, here are some of the various properties. Count, enter, 4,028. And then maybe like, because it's, a collection, it's an object here. What if I want to grab just the first item within that collection? So PBI workspaces, that's the name of our variable, square brackets, it's zero-based index. So I'm just going to go ahead and start out with 0. Press enter. There we go. ID, like we saw, name, description. So it's just all of that underlying metadata. Cool. So workspaces. But it's not just the workspaces, because within the workspaces we have data sets, we have got data flows, we've got all these different kind of artifacts to start thinking about. So return a listing of the Power BI data sets within a workspace. All right, so we stored our workspaces up here. Remember that. So let's go ahead and pass that through now just as a kind of a parameter condition. So I'll do get dash Power BI data set. I'm going to satisfy my scope. Obviously, if you're just doing individual, you don't have to pass it through. So scope level, my workspace ID. I stored this, as a variable, as a collection. I just want to grab the very first one. So my 0 and then my ID. So we're getting just deeper and deeper here now. So PBI workspaces, 0, period, ID. Control Enter. Awesome. So now here are my data set details that are stored within this workspace at the current scope level that I have access to. Whew. All right, so I'm just thinking about this now. I'm thinking about Power BI and all of the different components, all these artifacts. Me and my peer, Alex D. Let me go ahead and zoom out here. Here's a diagram. Here's all the metadata that we need to start thinking about here. So we have our workspaces. I was able to use the get dash Power BI workspaces. I also have dashboards. I need to think about how do I go out there and grab the dashboards. I also have workbooks. I have reports. I have paginated reports. I have data flows. I have data set details. Oh. Looping. You're right. All right, so we could take our loops and we could start passing those values through to our next kind of PowerShell commandlet, and then we can just keep iterating through. All right, I like that idea. So then let's go back down. Let's see here, just kind of once again, what do we get kind of within our return? So let's do get dash help, get dash Power BI workspace, and I'm going to return the full documentation here. Press Control Enter. Here's the name. Here's the synopsis. So it returns the list of Power BI workspaces. Yes, we've seen that. Syntax, descriptions, all of my parameters. So maybe if I had to do any filtering for specific names, which is case sensitive, keep that in mind. Just whenever you're doing name searches. Maybe the GUIDs, actual text names. So all of these different components. Then I also have some examples down here. So returns the first 100, returns all of them if I use the all, scope organization, filtering. All right. All right. I think I've got a pretty good idea here then. PBI workspaces. We're going to store this this object here just as the variable. So get dash Power BI workspace. My scope. I'm just going to point to my scope level variable that we stored earlier in my Jupyter notebook. I'm going to say, go ahead and just grab me the first 5 workspaces. I'm just not going to go after all 4,000, not here during testing. It just wouldn't make sense. Press Control Enter, or you can press the play button up here at the top. Remember here now, how do I get some of the different items within the workspaces? ID. All right. So thinking about our for each loop, for each, you can call this anything you want. If you want to call it I, as an iterator, I'm just going to call it workspace. So for each workspace in my Power BI workspaces object. Open curly. If you want, you can press enter. I'm going to do a tab. I want to call on that workspace item, and I want to go out and grab the ID property. So workspace period ID. Press Control Enter. press play. Cool. So there's my GUIDs. So next, my data sets. So because one of the arguments that I need to satisfy is what is the workspace in which that data set is stored in. So I'm going to loop through each one of these, pass that through. I'm going to start getting back all that information. For each workspace in Power BI workspaces, yes, open curly. I'm just going to press enter here. Just I'm a tab guy. Get dash Power BI data sets. My scope, I can define it if I want, so you can leave it off if you're just going to run it as an individual. I'm going to use my scope level variable, my workspace ID argument that I need to satisfy. I'm going to grab it here from my workspace item. So if I call this red, if I called it dogs, I would just do red. I do dogs, but I'm going to call it my workspace period. And I'm going to grab that ID property. So if you remember up here, that ID property. Press Control Enter. Or you can press the Run button. We now loop through 5 different workspaces to grab all of the data sets that are contained within each of those. So especially as we're just thinking about looping, we're thinking about this diagram here at the very top. We could get all of the metadata out of Power BI just by looping through at the workspace, kind of the highest level, and then just going down. Go grab all the dashboards. Cool. Go grab all the reports. Cool. Go grab all the data flows. Just getting all of that metadata. Scroll back down here now. One of the things I'm noticing though, and we'll probably just copy and paste this just for the kind of sake of time since I know we're running up here. I see ID, I see all this metadata property. One thing I don't see is the workspace ID. We pass it through as one of the arguments that need to be satisfied, but it isn't stored within our hash table. So that key value pair, this is our hash table. So we're actually going to add our own new property now. So I'm just going to copy and paste this for the sake of time. This pipe. I'm getting there. There we go. So I see this pipe. So we're just saying out of this condition, go ahead and do this second step, which I say just go ahead and select everything from there, but then add this whole new column for me. I'm just going to call it workspace ID. There we go. And then I want you to go ahead and store the workspace.id. So I'm just throwing you the deep end right now. You just have to kind of trust me. I've taken you this far. Press Control Enter. Here's that data set return properties. If I scroll down, we've now appended that new key value pair. So we've now added the workspace ID, and then we've went ahead and added that value here as well. So now if you're thinking, oh my gosh, Alex, I could export all this data. I could create those relationships. I could see all of my tenant. Yes. So you could have the workspace ID, then connect it down to the data set ID, data sources IDs to the data set ID, which then feeds back up to the workspace ID. So it's just all these different layers that you can start thinking about. But you may come to a point, at least here with PowerShell, where you're saying a lot of these things, it helps out a lot, but I'm noticing that I don't have all of the properties. Let's scroll back here again. Help. We'll just copy and paste it here again. All right, so if it's yelling at you about sort, do sort-object. I'll just get that updated here. It's a sort-object. Apparently it did not like me at some point. I talked about data sets, data sources. If I'm kind of more curious about like the refresh history, I don't see refreshes up here. I don't see schedules. I don't see failures. I don't see successes. So with this, you may have to do a little bit of combination of the REST API. So REST API data sets. Something you'll notice over here on the left-hand side is you're going to see these things that are called delete dataset and group. Discover gateways and group. So what this means is if I was to click into refresh history. Returns the refresh history of the specified data set from my workspace. We all know we shouldn't be doing work in my workspace. Get refresh history in group. Returns the refresh history of the specified data set from the specified workspace. Yep. So group equals workspace. I love, yes, just finding that call out. Just if you're over here looking at maybe the wrong documentation, you're probably pointing at the my workspace as opposed to an actual work, kind of a collaborative workspace. I see the HTTP call get kind of this full address here. Yes, I could try it. I guess I could get like an authorization token, and then I guess pass the token back to something else. And I don't know. This whole API thing is just way above me. I really like this connect-Power BI service account. That was easy. Can I call the API? Jumping back to our lab, invoke to our verb dash Power BI REST method. So let's check this out. So we're just going to call it just basic documentation, get dash help, invoke Power BI REST method, executes a REST call to the Power BI service with the specified URL and body. Very cool. So I don't have to do APIs. I don't have to worry about all that stuff. I'm just going to use this verb dash noun method, and we're going to go ahead and get that information returned. So scrolling down here, I'm going to run this here again, just this code. I see kind of my ID. I see my workspace here at the very bottom. So let's build these out here together. Then we're going to build a variable that's just called group ID equals. I'm going to copy and paste in just a workspace ID. I'm going to build another variable. So yes, you can do multiple lines here within your PowerShell code. It's not just one command line at a time. Dataset ID equals. I'm going to scroll here to the very top. I'm going to grab this dataset ID. And then this invoke dash Power BI REST method. So my verb Power BI REST method, and I'll pull this up here on the screen. And then if I jump back over the documentation, I see here's the URL address, and then here are the parameter values that I need to satisfy. So group ID I do have, dataset ID I do have. So I'll just copy and paste this, and then I see the method. So right here it tells me that I should get kind of my data. So my URL, so one of my parameters I need to satisfy. I'm just gonna go ahead and paste that here now. I'm gonna update these. So if I remember at the very beginning, whenever we were injecting just a string inside of a string, I had to use the money symbol, open parentheses, another money symbol, group ID, close parenthesis. Here at the very end here, dataset ID, I'm gonna switch this out, money symbol, open parenthesis, money symbol, dataset ID, close parenthesis. Cool. So we've added both the group ID and the dataset ID into this existing string. And then my method here, so that other argument, it was a get, a simple get method. So method is get. Not case sensitive, I'll do lowercase if you like. Press Control Enter. Oh, what is he yelling at me about? Now let me try another one here. I'll do scope level of individual. I probably got timed out. Give you 1 second here, then paste it. All right, well, I made it to the last one. It's close enough for the unauthorized. you've started pulling information back. I'm sure at some point you want to start storing it somewhere. So a lot of the different output methods. So very similar, we were doing our piping. So get Power BI workspaces. You then add a pipe, and you say export dash CSV. So your export method. You include the path where you want to store it to, and then no type information. Just kind of remove some metadata headers. Very similar here if you wanted to output it into a JSON file format, if that's the return type. In this example, you can go ahead and use the out-file, and then you could specify the actual file as well. Whew, that was the deep end. So a lot to think about tonight. Where do you go after here, though? Continuing your journey, Ted Pattison did an awesome Power BI Dev Camp, just teaching you very similar, just how to write PowerShell scripts. I think his was a little bit more focused on the ISE, but if you're looking for the word track like we were doing tonight, just an awesome kind of exploring into Jupyter Notebooks. Denisha Malone, she is a fantastic champion in terms of Power BI administration, obviously PowerShell command lists as well. She's done several sessions out in the community. I would highly recommend checking those out. She just has a wealth of knowledge. She is the queen. She's been talking about Power BI administration for years and years. So she is definitely someone I would recommend following. All right, so with that, Ken, I think we're at time. Whew. Hopefully for those following along, you had a little bit of fun just learning PowerShell just through the context of Power BI and the things that you know.
That's awesome, man. I wrote PowerShell tonight. It's amazing.
I love it.
Go figure. So thanks a ton for pulling all this stuff together for us, Alex. We really appreciate it. We will be posting the recording on my YouTube channel in a couple of days, and once I've done that, I will make sure that the link to that gets posted in the meetup area as well. Alex, can we throw in a link to the GitHub Notebook or Jupyter Notebook as well? Does that work for you? Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, well, on that note, I mean, again, huge thanks to that, man, the amount of comments coming in here was a very active chat today. I think we had about 50 people online watching, and I'm sure more will be taking care of it on video later on. Alex has got his contact information up there, which is fantastic. And yeah, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I think it's fun. And, you know, as someone who didn't write PowerShell before Power BI, it was just, you know, maybe writing some VBA, maybe writing some Power Query scripts. It was, what was the context of things that I needed to accomplish? So when I was looking at, you know, I got to go out and catalog all the workspaces I have access to. Well, I guess I could do that through the graphical user interface of the service, but there has to be a better way. There's always a better way to, you know, hopefully solve some of these problems. So putting my hands on the keyboard a little bit, especially within PowerShell, really those two items, connect to the service, get my workspaces. Problem solved.
There you go.
Right, well, what's the next problem? Data sets. Moving on. So hopefully for those who have never touched PowerShell in the past, tonight was just like a fun example of, hey, I could do this. And you don't have to be your tenant's admin to start building this muscle, building this experience.
That's awesome, right? Where there's a will, there's a way, as long as you can figure out what the right tool is and how to use it. So fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to shut down the recording here in just a second here. I just want to remind everybody that we have an Excel session that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. That is now open for RSVPs, and then we've got another Power BI session that's going to be coming in. Again, we're going to 2 meetings a month, one more focused on Excel, one more focused on Power BI. And on that note, we're going to sign it off. Thanks again, Alex, for speaking for us. We really appreciate it. It was absolutely fantastic. And we look forward to seeing all of you folks next time around.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.